Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Spiritual Psychic TV. And the show tonight is Being Spiritual with me, your host, Ashley Robinson. This is a spiritualist philosophy show. It's a great privilege and honor to be with you this evening. And a warm welcome to all of you on this Friday. Happy Friday to you all. 7th of May. Feels like we're making progress through the year quickly and heading in the right direction. And for me, that's all very positive. If you are watching for the first time, a special welcome to you. And if you've come back to see us again, thank you for your support and thank you for this wonderful community within Spiritual Psychic TV. If you're on Facebook, please do make sure that you have liked our page and do join the SPTV fan page if you haven't already done so. The other thing you could do for us on Facebook is share this stream. Perhaps click share now, share it on your wall, perhaps tag a friend, let them know you're watching a show, a live stream tonight. Opportunities to ask Ash anything on spiritualism, spiritual philosophy. And tonight we will be talking about consciousness and shifting your consciousness via attunement to the point of receiving messages. It was one of the poll results we did a couple of months ago now, but what people wanted to hear about. And tonight we're going to talk about mediumship. We're going to talk about getting yourself ready for attunement and clearing your mind's eye. But any questions on anything spiritual can come. If you're joining us on YouTube, one of the best ways to engage with the show is to make sure you've created a free YouTube account. Simply log in and participate with the live chat. The other thing you can do is subscribe to our channel. We're always trying to build this community, and you won't miss any of the notifications if you subscribe and click on that little buzzing bell and make sure you get notifications of when we go live. The other thing you can do on YouTube is give us a thumbs up, like this show, like the channel, and of course you can share this stream from YouTube as well. And for those of you with smart devices and smart TVs at home, of course you can cast from Facebook or YouTube to your TV now, which is a wonderful thing. It makes it a lot more comfortable. But yeah, do participate. It's an engagement opportunity, and we do love your energy. I'm a big extrovert. I get my energy from you, the people. So do participate in the Facebook live chat, the YouTube live chat. If you are able to do that, let us know where you're watching this show from tonight. If you're a first-time viewer, let us know that too. And in a few moments, we'll be doing a couple of hellos and welcomes. For those that are on Facebook, you can find my page at Ash Robinson Medium, and you can also find me on Instagram. But if you're into your social media channels, remember that Spiritual Psychics TV is across all of those social media channels, and it's always a good thing to like, subscribe, and follow all the various things we're doing. There's such a varied and wonderful program of things that go on. A couple of quick thank yous from me. We've got our wonderful producer, Richard James, that gives us these opportunities to come out across the channel. Thank you, Richard. And then there's a handful of other people. There's the wonderful Terry that does a great administration job. Lots of regular fans. Thank you all for your love and your commitment. And people like Veronica Jenkins that do a lot of good bookings for us, and an incredible amount of effort and energy goes in from her to share all of the different sort of spiritually related things going on. Otherwise, folks, it's 8:05. Let's get on with the show. And I'd like to do that with a couple of hellos and welcomes to see who's joining us this evening. Just moving my microphone. Hopefully that'll be less of an echo for you folks. Wow, three pages of hellos. Wonderful. Terry Wall, good evening. Alison Barton, hiya. Karen Jones, welcome. Good evening, beautiful people. That's nice. Benny, hello, Benny. Marion Dunlop on Facebook, hello. Good evening from Janine White. Hiya, Janine. Lady Sage, great name that. Good evening, Richard. Louise, hey, Louise. Susan, Anne, good evening, Ashley. Hope you're well. I'm doing great, thanks. Karen Jones says, thank you for this channel. Yeah, absolutely. Glad it helps you, Karen. Lee Chu, good evening. Good evening to you, Lee Chu. Dilbrace. Alison Gibbs, good evening to you. Tina says, evening from Bristol. Hiya, Tina. Hoping to visit Bristol in August. Bev Buttle says hello. Hi, Bev. Mary Dixie. Lovely Mary Dixie, my circle leader. Julie Caswell, another Wimbledon Womble. Hiya, Julie. Jade J Mon. Hiya, Jade says warm welcome. Well, a warm welcome to you too, Jade. Lovely to have you. Andy says evening. Hiya, Andy Millie. Joe Stainsbury. Hiya. Hello. Sue Carroll, you're new. Welcome, Sue. A special welcome to you. We got a good evening there from, is that Taylor? Jade Sutton. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Tully. Marion Dunlop joins us for the first time as well. Hiya, Marion. We're talking spiritualist philosophy tonight. Kelly McEaton sends big love. Loretta Rose on YouTube. Hiya, Loretta. Karen Patricia Kelly says good evening. First time for you too. Hiya, Karen. And Holly Johnston, good evening. Hiya, Holly. Wendy Watson. Oh, thank you for sharing, Wendy. That's hugely appreciated. Thank you for all of you that are sharing. Jeanette White says good evening. Hiya, Janine. Jojo, hiya. Spirit of Love, hi everyone. Hello, Spirit of Love. Christina Norberto, good evening, everyone. Hiya. Julie Harcourt, hiya. Grace Nana Apple Smith, hi from Battersea. We were down at Battersea Zoo with the kids. Hiya, Christine. A couple of weeks ago. Lovely part of the world. Michelle Aves, hi from Hull. Hiya. And Carol Ann, good evening to you. And Christine Davis, good evening to you. A lovely bunch of people engaging with us already. Wonderful to have you with us. If I've not mentioned your name, sorry, but sending you all some love and light. Hiya there, Amie White. And as different people come up, I'll try and reach out and certainly when we get to your questions, hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions. And probably the next 25 minutes, folks, I want to get us into some questions. So start thinking about your questions. Anything on the kind of spiritual, being spiritual philosophy is welcome. Anything on spiritualism, personal opinions and teaching and tips. And of course, the community, I encourage you to come in with your opinions too. Everything I always share, I say with the caveat that it's my honest held belief based on my teachings, on the things that have been taught to me, things I've got from my guides and inspirers. And actually, as part of developing that spiritualist philosophy over the last 12 months, I have the benefit of what I call my spiritualist executive committee, which is a group of guides that I imagine sort of sitting around an equivalent of a boardroom table. And a lot of these guides and inspirers of mine come from different times of incarnation in their earthly lives, and different traditions, different cultures, and different backgrounds. And what's really interesting for me is I then try and get that blend of their own personality and their knowledge from the spirit world to develop my own spiritual understanding. Daddy Ray says, hi, son, have a good show. Love mum and dad. Hiya, mum and dad. Lovely to have you on the show tonight. So we're going to be talking about attunement. And the specific question which came up in the SPTV fan page was, how do you shift your consciousness to a point of attunement? And how do you get yourself and your mind's eye sort of ready to receive that message? So we're going to be talking a lot about attunement. And for those of you that have seen me do the live mediumship on here as well, I often talk about my mind's eye. I've often described that as the sort of the place you store your shopping list and other bits and pieces. So we're going to talk about the mind's eye tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about attunement. And I'm also going to give you a couple of quotes from one of my most fantastic teachers, a guy called Harry Edwards. Now, I'm sure most of you that consider yourself to be spiritualists would have heard of Harry Edwards, one of the greatest spiritual healers since the leader and master Jesus, many have said. An incredible man, a great teacher, and I love his books and I love his teachings. I had the benefit of growing up in and around the Borrosley Sanctuary, Harry Edwards Healing Sanctuary, and my grandfather worked with Harry Edwards during his sort of prime and demonstrations of healing. and a man that was very fond of him and his wife, Ray Branch and Joan, wonderful healers too. Again, wonderful teachers, taught me a lot about mediumship and in particular spiritual healing. So we're going to talk then tonight about mediumship. And in order to do that, we need to think about the purpose of mediumship before we sort of get into attunement. And in order to do that, we need to think about what it is and what we're communicating with an energy. So starting at the beginning, very simple terms, I believe that as a spiritualist medium, my job is to prove life after death. It's to give evidence of someone's life after their life. It's to share their knowledge and the knowledge that I have from the spirit world. Now, when we talk about that evidence of life after death, the evidence of life after life, I believe as a medium that I am communicating with the personality, the consciousness, or the soul, the spirit of the human being that walked this 3D earth of ours, third dimension world. The training planet, as some people refer to it, quite like that, where we come down for all these experiences you can only do as a human being in a 3D body. Now, scientists tell us that we are all made of energy. Spiritualists will tell you that we are energy beings. We have a physical body and we have a spiritual body, and we have an interface in between. And I believe that the difference between a human being, alive and well, and a corpse is the absence of that personality, that consciousness. And we need to think about our own consciousness when we're then talking about acting as a medium to communicate with the energy, the intelligent energy of someone's previous consciousness when it was attached to their human body. So there's a little book from Harry Edwards that my dad has found me again tonight. It's called Life in Spirit. It's available from all good spiritualist churches and centres, and you can go direct to the Harry Edwards Healing Sanctuary at Bursley, or you can buy it from their website. But there's just an opening paragraph I wanted to share with you, and it's within chapter 22, and it's all about the introduction on mediumship. And it talks about the first that any advice that can be given to enable aspirants to mediumship to show the manner in which they can develop the gifts of the spirit should be accurate and simply expressed. Plain English. It's not necessary for a person to be a man or a woman of letters to be versed in the psychic science to become a medium. In the past, there have been many instances of simple folk being outstanding mediums and healers. That goes with my own belief that anyone can be a medium, and indeed we all are mediums in some way, shape or form. Also in the chapter, it says that many people who wish to become mediums, to see spirit people, to hear them speak, to obtain counsel, to hear the sick, to help the bereaved, to give advice and assist those who are in need. This desire is simply that of satisfying the personal ego, to be different from other people, the wish to be looked up perhaps and to be put on the mantle of the mysticism. This, Harry Edwards would say, was an entirely wrong approach to mediumship. And I wanted to talk about that because he goes on to say that mediumship has a purpose, and that is to demonstrate to man and woman, to humankind, that we are not just a physical being, that we are also part spirit. This life is but an apprenticeship for the greater and fuller life that commences with the change our body goes for, the change we call physical death. That through this knowledge, mankind will receive the impulse to adopt an enlightened code of values that in its involvement will outlaw war, poverty, and the other ignorable trends in our present way of life. Thus, the true motive that inspires mediumship is a spiritual one. This is not so, then no reason can be found for the greater efforts the evolved personalities in spirit life. The teachers, philosophers, doctors, and others make to use human instruments for the progression of all souls. Now, I love that introductory paragraph because it sets out the fact that we are all capable. And actually, we've spoke before about my grandfather and Wimbledon Spiritualist Church, the creation of Life After Death Promotions about 38 years ago. My grandfather, Derek, Gordon Higginson, Jesse Nason, and Doris Stokes founded Life After Death Promotions with the mission to take spiritualism out to the people and to share their knowledge of spiritualism, the truths of spiritualism, to share their knowledge of life after death. And actually, I think that the job of any good medium is to do exactly that, to give that evidence and to share their knowledge. It's a wonderful opportunity, and it also comes with a great responsibility. There are many, many people in churches, home circles, centres that will claim they are able to teach you to do this. And I say claim because I can't talk for everybody. Generally, with spiritualist churches and centres and people attached to that, you are going into some type of regulated organisation with standards, and that's also very important. But where do these standards come from? We've spoke on this platform before. There are many different types of organisations that regulate spiritualism in the UK. We know that the biggest one, the SNU, and there are lots of others. I myself are an accredited medium with United Spiritualists, but there are lots of other good organisations. All of these organisations have their own standards. All of these standards have a book of standard operating procedures. All of the churches, some independent, have a foundation. We did a show and we spoke about the principles, the SNU principles, the principles of my own church, Women of Spiritualist Church. All of that kind of creates this foundation. And there's this opportunity within that to, of course, continue to cascade the teachings. So I put in the caveat, the things that I am telling you are the things that have been taught to me, the things that I believe to be true. But there is no national or international standard above and beyond the principles that we've spoke to about today. Now, one of the things that was really important in the Harry Edwards book, important in my own philosophy, is that we all have this potential. As a medium, you could argue that the human being that we are as the presenter, the medium, we bring with that our own strengths and our own skills and our own talent. But there must be an appetite for continuous improvement, continual investment, to want, to desire to take a spiritual advancement every day, because we never stop learning. And I'm a great believer of that. But the question we had then in the show was about how do you shift your own consciousness to that point of attunement? And we're going to talk now about the mind's eye. Now, a lot of people have sort of said to me, well, where is the mind's eye? And for me, it's within my mind. Now, one of the first bits of teachings I ever read was one of Harry Edwards' book, and he introduced this concept of the mirror in the mind. And I'm just going to read a couple of sentences when he talks about the mirror in the mind, because he says, at this early stage of development, it's essential for the beginner to understand the way in which consciousness operates. This can be simply explained by regarding the consciousness as a mirror. On this mirror is projected all physical thought, sensation, pain, and the experiences arising from the senses. And remember, I've often said that for me, heaven is a place of pure thought. In life, the mirror is never free from some type of impression. Thought pictures, recollections from memory, etc., in one form or another. When one sees or hears, it is not necessarily the eyes or the ears that are seeing and hearing. These organs receive radiations or impulses or vibrations, and these are transmitted along our nerve systems to the brain, where they are translated into a recognizable and understandable experience that is projected onto the mirror of our consciousness. In hearing, sound impulses are converted into an intelligent appreciation of their meaning by virtue of one's knowledge of how to interpret that result into words whose meanings we understand. And for me, we spoke about language. You take the English language, which perhaps complicates communication, but is recognised in the UK. Most of you watching today would understand English as a speaking language. And as the ears pick up that vibration of the noise that comes out of someone else's mouth, in the same way you're listening to me now, it is the brain and it is the mirror in the mind that I'm now referring to that starts to interpret that. So Harry would say the use of the term mirror of the mind will be constantly referred. And actually, if you look throughout all of his teachings, when he talks about healing, he talks about mediumship, he goes back to this sense of your own consciousness. Now, the mirror of the mind is able to receive spirit experiences when the mirror is unoccupied by physical ones. He said, we possess, in addition to the physical perception through the ordinary mind, a spirit mind. This is concerned with the reception of impressions, experiences, and thought pictures from a spirit source. So, when we are working, we've got to locate that mirror in the mind. Some people have described it as almost like a blank canvas or an easel. And for me as a layman, I've often spoke about it being quite simply that place I store the shopping list when I'm trying to remember what it is we've got to get. The consciousness is often unable to maintain or hold on to different distinct sets of thought impressions at the same time, which is why when we develop as mediums, and even I've been sitting in for over 20 years, it comes to this point that we have to clear the mirror in the mind. We have to clear the mind's eye or clear that canvas in order to receive impressions from the spirit world. Now, every medium will work in a different way, but many of us will be able to understand that plain English of what I'm describing as that mirror in the mind. And for me, that is where my consciousness, my spiritual self, is able to receive and interpret signals or impressions. So when we are getting ready and we are attuning to the spirit world, locating that mirror in my mind and starting to clear it of the days, the weeks, the months, woes, and the aches and pains, it is then that spirit are invited to come close. It is then that I surrender myself to their will, knowing I stand for love, light, and truth, for a relationship with my guides, making myself ready for communication. All of that for me is the kind of logical steps around shifting our consciousness. So how do we do it? How do I do it? And I'd be grateful, folks, for you to share your own thoughts in the chat bar. But for me, then, it goes right back down to the first time that I had any type of formal training. And for those of you that have been watching the show for the last year, you'll know that actually it was a much younger boy when I was struggling to switch off that attunement. I was very aware and very sensitive and was picking up on spirit all of the time, and it became overwhelming. So one of my first bits of training was effectively returning the mirror in the mind back to factory settings, resetting it so that I could concentrate and focus on the things that I was physically seeing with my eyes and hearing with my ears. And so that my consciousness, that mirror in my mind, was only picking up on those things. But fast forward until about 18 years old, when I started Sitting Circle with Christine Woodham and then Mary Dixie and Jill Hay. The idea for me was to find that space again and start to open it up. And there was lots and lots of wonderful guided meditations. You can find a regular one here on Spiritual Psychic TV on Fridays with the lovely Leslie Knight. And there are some other bits and pieces you can find. But again, good mediums and teachers, particularly circle leaders, can often lead a guided meditation. And it's through guided meditation that was the first time I was able to have a bit of an exploratory sort of session with the mirror in my mind. Now, I've always struggled to clear that mind perfectly, because as soon as I sit quietly, as soon as I sit in the power and I start to wind down, everything comes to my mind. And it often starts with that shopping list, but all the other little jobs I've got to do, or the email I've got to send, or the phone call I've been meaning to do. And it's incredibly difficult because even on guided meditations, I've found it hard to stay with the group and to stay with the circle leader. But of course, it is a getting to that point through practice of then starting to get your own mind tuned in. And a lot of that starts with visualizing this mirror in the mind. So just imagine that, Vincent, for folks. And I know that there'll be lots of working mediums watching the show tonight, but just being able to close your eyes. And if we were to close our eyes and just sit quietly in the moment, and I was able to say, can you remember what you're wearing right now? You can probably remember that. It's an active memory. Can you remember the last time that you wore the socks, if you're wearing socks now, or the trousers? I won't go to any of the underwear region, but can you remember that? And you start to think about that the last time we were. Some of you, it will ping straight to mind. Some won't. Can you remember the last time you perhaps spilled food or drink on the top or the outfit you're wearing? All of that for me within that memory world, that part of my mind's eye, all of that exists in exactly the same place as the mirror in my mind. And once I'm able to locate that place, once I'm able to start thinking about things and looking back through memory, that is when I can visualize that mirror in my mind or that blank canvas. And for me, it's looking at what's in there and one by one taking it off. So going through the shopping list, right? Milk, eggs, bread, right? Take that off the list, give that back to the universe. I don't need that right now. Okay, got to post a letter tomorrow. Give that back to the universe. And as I work through my list of things, I eventually get to a point that the mirror is now starting to become more and more prominent. And as the mirror becomes more prominent, sometimes I see it as a blank canvas. Sometimes I see writing on the mirror sort of disappearing as I'm giving things back to the universe. It's at that point that I can start to invite spirit to come close. Now, all of that for me can take place in seconds now when I'm getting ready to work as a spiritualist medium. Equally, it can take me hours and hours just to get through the first full of things as I approach that mirror in my mind's eye. So thinking about that concept and thinking about the lessons we have to do, meditation and just taking some time out to invest in you, your wellness, your well-being, that is all incredibly possible. For me, I've had bouts of depression and anxiety where I've excessively worried about things that I had very little control of. And there's lots of great cognitive behavior therapy to get through those. Now, the reason I mention sort of the fact that I've suffered with depression and anxiety is because to act as a medium, to be able to receive that communication, my mind and my mental health need to be in a good place. Now, when I'm a bit tired and I'm a bit exhausted, when I'm suffering with mental or physical health, of course, I can invite spirit close to help with spiritual healing, to feel and be surrounded by that unconditional love. But actually, in order to surrender myself to the will of spirit, I need to be of good physical and mental health. And spirits are aware about that. So, first of all, is kind of getting yourself and fit and well as you can be. I'm saying it's not an absolute condition. Some of the days when I felt physically ill, I've invited spirit to come close and develop some mediumship, and boom, all of the physical things I've been suffering with start to go. And I almost always get a big buzz and kick from spirits when I work with them and work with that energy. So it's a great top up for mental health. But, you know, again, it'd be something that Harry Edwards would have said and other good teachers. You have to be of the right frame of mind. And some of that is obvious things that would cloud our judgment. In the same way you wouldn't drink alcohol and drive or take, very strong painkillers. If you can't operate machinery, you probably shouldn't be operating the mirror in your mind. And certainly illegal drugs, although that may have been part of great tradition for some of the ancient cultures when they were experiencing attunement, for me and my own personal understanding of this is making that as pure as possible. Years ago, mediums used to even not eat or drink anything other than water to sort of clear the palate for them to act as the medium. So assuming we get to all of that point, assuming you're aware of the benefits of mental health, cognitive behavior therapy, meditation, practicing meditation, being able to sort of switch almost on demand to calm down. All of that is good for your own wellness anyway, but being aware then of that mirror in the mind. And I want to just give you a little example again from another part of the book, and that is about these two different signals. So as I said, I need to get rid of everything that I'm dealing with right now, locate the mirror in the mind, and then I start to get to that point that I'm now thinking about thoughts. And remember, I've said that heaven is a place of pure thought. If you think about objects, and these could be presented in the mirror, in the mind, as pictures. For example, if you were to close your eyes right now and think of a common object, and let's all do this together. Let's think of a common object like a pencil. The presentation of this will hopefully be projected into the mirror in the form of a picture, taking the character of which the person convenes it to be. If the thought of a pencil is qualified by the suggestion of a particular type of pencil, for example, in Harry Edwards' books, he talks about the ever-sharp pencil, the picture will alter from a common, say, wooden HB pencil that would have used at school, perhaps into more of a silver automatic pencil. However, if you at home have no idea what I'm talking about by an Eversharp, and if the person has no idea what an Eversharp pencil looks like, they will be unable to receive any sort of picture on that mirror. Thus, if a spirit guide wished to convey the thought of a pencil, the mirror would receive a picture in accordance with the character of the way the picture is understood. The same for apples. Let's think about apples. If I were able to say to you, right, let's all close our eyes and I'm going to think about apples, okay? In your mirror, in your mind, apples. What can you see? Some of us will be thinking about the same types of apples. Are they red apples or green apples? If they're green apples, are they Granny Smiths or something totally different? Have some of you already now thought, oh, apples, bananas, pears, and you've started to see that different slideshow of things. So we as a medium are to a certain extent, and for want of a better words, limited by our palette of understanding. And sometimes that can be really useful. When I've given messages and evidence of life after death to someone where English is not the first language, the communicator may never have even spoken English themselves. But of course, because I'm unable to understand another language, their thoughts are represented in my mind as pictures. I'm able to quickly pick up and identify from that. In the same way that let's take my mum and dad. So my mum and dad are alive and well. They certainly were 5 minutes ago when I watched it on YouTube. But if spirit wanted me to understand that my communicator was someone's father, and I've never met their father, it would be very difficult within that mirror in my mind or my mind's eye for me to see a picture of their father. Over a period of time and with attunement and practice, you can actually start to get almost a sketch identify in your mind. But the quickest thing spirit can do is say, we've got a guy here who's claiming to be that person's father, so they show me a picture of my father. I've cleared the mirror in my mind. I can see a picture of my dad. Ah, this person's claiming to be your dad. Or perhaps I see a picture of my granddad. Now, my granddad is in the spirit world, and sometimes he pops in to help with messages anyway. And I have to think, right, why are you showing me granddad? Is it because this person is someone's dad's dad? Is it because they had links to South London and Brixton? Is it because they had links to Wimbledon Spiritualist Church? Or is the first name Derek, Dale, is that important? Spirits will start to use my own memories, my own experiences as that palette. And a bit like catchphrase and a bit like a slideshow, they're picking out different things that I would understand and they're presenting it in my mind's eye in that mirror. And it's from there that we start to shift our own consciousness to a point where we are allowing the spirit world, the consciousness of someone else, to come in and start to influence. Now, I'm talking about traditional mediumship. There are obviously some exciting and sometimes rare forms of physical mediumship and trance and control where it doesn't necessarily happen in exactly the same way. But certainly as a developing medium, as a spiritualist medium, an evidential medium, that is the way I've been working for the last 20 years. The relationship of how quickly I can clear the mirror in my mind and get my mind's eye into a position to receive messages, that has changed. I've found quicker ways of doing it, particularly that are more compatible with the life as a sort of busy dad and a sort of day job. Equally, there are certain things that I've started to work with my guides. For example, if I'm asking for cause of death, often I'm inspired to take my right arm over to the left hand side of my body around my heart. If someone has passed with a cancerous type condition, they often show me the letter C. Now, all of these are different things that I've experimented with my guides, with my mediumship team. And when we talk about guides, I've often said we all have at least one principal guide. I believe we also have different guides that come in to help us with different aspects of our life. In the same way that our parents look after us and guide us through our life, but we then have a special teacher for maths, or we perhaps have a teacher in primary school that teaches us a little bit of everything. And then when we get to high school, we go off and specialize in computing or technology, and we get another teacher come in. I think that our relationship with guides work like that. So not only have we got to clear the mirror in the mind to receive messages from a consciousness and a personality of someone that's died, we also have to get to a point that we can understand more about our own team and our own guides. So that in a nutshell, folks, is my understanding of shifting your sort of consciousness to a point of receiving attunement, receiving messages. There's a million and different ways of getting there. We've spoken a little bit about meditation. On previous shows, we spoke about the chakras, opening up all of the main sort of 7 chakras, working through that, having little switches on and off. One of my things to do is to one of my guides, Bear, who I think full name I've always understood as Running Bear, because I believe that his parents saw a bear running when he was born, so hence the name Running Bear. When I see a bear running or running water, and it's something running, it's almost like my switch that I'm ready to start working, and I send that in the mind's eye. So Julie says, wow, this is amazing, Ashley. Thanks for sharing. You're very welcome, Julie. And folks, I'm keen to get your thoughts on things I've said now. And I'm also keen to get your questions. So I'm just going to take a little bit of water and, yeah, really keen to get your thoughts. Okay, so we've got some lovely people still saying hello. Well, good evening and welcome to you all. I'm going to take a few of your questions now, and we'll see where we go with that. Amie White. Ashley, my friend's daughter has been able to see spirits for a long time. She's now 16. How are spirits able to show themselves to her like that? Well, Amie, there's lots of different reasons that could be happening. One of the things with children is that I believe when we have our incarnation here on earth, that we've just come from that place I call heaven, the spirit world. And because we were energy and we were an energy being in that place I call heaven, just before our incarnation as a human being, the younger we are, the closest our sort of vibration, the closest our energy is to that world, it makes it easier to perhaps receive messages and inspiration from energy, pure thought from the spirit world. And I think that lots of children and indeed animals, until they have it kind of knocked out of their system as, no one else can see this, so it's not real, actually it becomes like a natural level of mediumship. That happened to me as a young boy. But say it became overwhelming as a teenager, and I wanted to close down. And then a few years later, wanted to learn how to sort of formally open up. But it's very likely that they sort of naturally attuned, and that they are very aware of their senses above and beyond their sort of 5 traditional senses. So lovely that they can see spirits, and hopefully it's a lovely experience for them. Of course, if it is intimidating or worrying, then they should talk to people about that. Obviously, they're talking to your friend's parents, or your friend is their parents. But if they wanted some more professional help, they could get in touch with their local spiritualist church or centre, where they could again learn how to close down. And for me, closing down was as simple as clearing that mirror in the mind and then imagining a rose and saying to spirit friends and family, thank you for showing yourself to me, but at this time I'm unable to work with you, and I don't wish to hear you or see you. And as I used to put that intention out in my mind's eye, I would see a beautiful rose. It always used to be a red rose with me, and the rose would ever so slowly close, petal by petal. Within that would be the love and the light and the intentions of wanting to work back to spirit. I would sometimes step back into almost like a camping style tent where I would pull the zip down to protect myself. But it was very, very simple to then switch off and tune down. So yeah, that's the answer to your question. Good question, Amie, and thank you for sharing that. Okay. So okay, Terry says, what do you mean by sit in the power? I've heard this expression a few times, and then there's a part two to this. I don't understand what it means, and I've Googled it and get nothing. Is it building that connection between us and spirit? Is it increasing our energy? I have no idea. Terry, good question. This came up once before in one of the shows, and it, for me, it depends on the person. But in ultimate terms, I believe it's doing what we exactly said, sitting in the power. Well, what is the power? Right? So we're all energy. The universe is made of energy. Everything within the universe is energy. And that, for me, within that energy is a life force. So actually just being aware of it and then taking out time to top up and invest could be described as sitting in the power. In Hollywood, in Star Wars, they'll talk about the Force, won't they? May the Force be with you. And people say, well, may that, and also with you. And there's this idea of the life force behind the power, behind the energy. We, as spiritualists, often talk about sending love, recognizing the power of unconditional love. That's very powerful. And light being more powerful than darkness. We talk about laughter. I sign off lots of my emails in the spiritual world, love, light, and laughter. That for me is taking time out to sit in the power to send out something positive. But when we get to the point of sitting with the intention of working with spirit, for spirit, surrendering ourselves to that will, bringing our guides and inspirers close, clearing our mind's eye, locating that mirror in our mind, clearing that and allowing spirit to imprint themselves, that for me is the best definition of sitting in the power. And sometimes people would sit there for hours. Indeed, monks were sitting for days or weeks, and they would continue just to sit within that force and be grateful for the opportunities. So hopefully that answers that, Terry. Great question. Just going to bring in our next question. I sometimes sit here realizing that I have these brilliant conversations with Richard, the producer, which none of you are aware of. So if that doesn't describe my spontaneous reactions and emotions. Sharon Langland says, can you tell me if spirit around me, as when I go bed, I see orange glow from my living paper, is that wallpaper, either the hall or bedroom? Okay. Sharon, I believe that spirits are effectively powerless without intention. So, but spirit are always around us. Now, when I say always around us, you still have the reasonable rights and expectations of privacy. You go to the toilet and the bathroom and things like that. But spirit consciousness of people who lived and experienced life in our and bodies on earth, when they go through that change we call death, they are pure energy. They live in a place of pure thought. I call that place heaven. So they're all around us in the same way. The energy is all around us. So yeah, absolutely, spirit are around us all. The fact you see colors is really interesting. Colors were the first things I used to see in circle. My mum is very gifted when it comes to reading color. You sometimes talk about color with aura. We did a whole show on spiritualism meets science. We talk about curriculum, I can't say it now, photography, and I can't think of the Russian scientist name, Kirk something, wasn't it? Curriculum. Yeah. Photography, when you're able to capture the aura and the colors around people. So the orange glow, if you've ruled out the supernormal, like a torch or a light behind it from the hall of the bedroom, yeah, it could be spirit, could be the start of colors. And then it's all about understanding a code, working with your own guide team to understand what the colors mean. Lots of spiritualists have very common understandings of color. Some of us often feel that I'm marching to the beat of my own drum. For me, purple, I love purple. Purple is one of my fantastic favorite colors, and often see it as quite a spiritual color. And when I see purple with people, I'm often thinking about their own spirituality. Other people associate purple as a healing force. Red for a lot of people could be about danger. For other people, it's about passion and it's about love. So yeah, great that you're seeing orange glow. Once you've ruled out the supernormal and it's no like lights, LEDs, light bulbs, and things like that, then yeah, try and find and locate that mirror in your mind. Think about what the colours mean. And if you like the colours, of course it is, and you want to experiment. If you don't, ask them to take the colours away so you can get some sleep. Thanks, Sharon. Great question. Kirlian photography. Thank you, Alison. It seems so simple when I see it written up in front of me. But I do struggle. Right. Terry wants to clarify. She says, when we send out an intention, this is sitting in a power. I never knew that and do this every Sunday before SBTV VIP development class. Thanks for explaining. In my honest, humble opinion, Terry, yeah, absolutely. It's recognizing the power and life force of the universe, the energy. Some people call it the divine or the power. But for me, yeah, when you sit with intention, you send love and light out and spiritual healing, that for me is sitting in the power. People that are working as mediums and healers will talk about it different ways. Tony Lazard says hi with a waving hand. Hiya, Tony. Hope you're doing well, sir. Sharon Walsh says good evening. Hiya, Sharon. Karen Jones, what is the most important tip for a newly developing medium? Like any new relationship, Karen, I think that the most important thing is trust. Ultimately, trust in spirit and trust in yourself. Sorry, Richard? Honesty. Yeah, Richard says honesty. Working, so if you think about values and yeah, honesty, integrity, trust, all of those things are really important. But as a tip for a newly developing medium, for me, it's about learning to do things in a methodical order, learning to open up and close, learning to understand more about your guides. All of that's really important because before we want to start communicating with spirit in any great detail, we want to make sure that we're doing this safe. And for me, I like this to our front door. When we want to make new friends and we make really good friends, eventually, outside of COVID-19 rules, we invite them round home maybe for a cup of tea or a cheeky shandy and lemonade or a barbecue perhaps in the garden. And we invite those people in, don't we? We often we get them to knock at the door, we open it up, we invite them in to our house. If we just want to meet anybody, we could open our door up, couldn't we? And just leave it open with a sign that says everyone welcome. But most of us would understand the concept of wanting to control who comes in through that door. The same reason we lock our doors at night for additional security. And as a new developing medium, my great tip would be to understand the importance of intention, safety and security with yourself. And of course, you can do that just by going through the things I've said tonight. But as soon as you're looking to start working and developing as a medium, I think you need help. And you need help in the form of some type of circle leader. Now, this year has been very odd in that lots of things have had to move online. There are some great spiritual sort of academies. There's one via Spiritual Psychics TV. But wherever possible, I've always recommended people doing things face to face in the safe and comforts of a church or a centre or even a home circle with someone that has been well and really sort of recommended. And then your circle leader will understand that the relationship has to work both ways. So not only is the circle leader sort of testing and challenging to see if you are the right person for the circle, you're seeing if that circle leader and that circle is also for you. Now, often in churches, these things are called open circles, where you can join as a new open. They're open for new joiners. Closed circles suggest that the membership has got to a point that it's working satisfactorily and they want to move on. So think about those things. Think about finding a circle and a circle leader and learning. But if you're starting to develop at home, think about all the safety and security. Remember your intentions. Remember that lightness is always more powerful than darkness, but protect yourself. And this all starts with understanding yourself, working out more about your own guides, your principal guides, and the guides, teachers, and inspirers that are going to work with you and your mediumship. So, Karen, hopefully there's a few good tips there for you. But yeah, most importantly, integrity, trust, honesty, all of these things are really, really important. Be honest to yourself, get yourself in a nice sort of fit physically and mentally sort of state so you can start to do more, develop that attunement, start to find your moment. Thank you, Karen. Great question from Karen Jones on YouTube. Diane Allen says hello. Hello, Diane. Reece Daniels says, are you clairsentient or clairvoyant, Ashley? Thank you for asking, Reece. Working through the clairs, I would certainly say I'm clairvoyant. I often talk about doing demonstrations of mediumship now, not necessarily relying on the clairs, because depending on the communicator, depending on the environment I'm working in, I can actually go through lots of the clairs. The clairaudient, the ability of clear hearing, clairvoyant, clear seeing, clairsentient, of sort of scenting. Sometimes communicators use all of those senses within me. Now, the vast majority of the time, it's all happening in the mirror, in the mind's eye. But occasionally I've seen things with my physical eyes. It's been interpreted then on the mirror in the mind. I used to see this a lot at church. You know, when I'd be looking out for the congregation and my communicator would sort of show themselves to me, or sometimes wave me down. You know, I'm over here. That's my daughter. You know, I want to talk to her. The sensient, the clairsentient part of me has developed more recently over the last couple of years, where I start to feel a lot more things from the person. So yeah, hopefully I've interpreted that right. Do correct me if I'm wrong, folks. But yeah, clair means the ability of sort of clear. I think it's French. If there's any French speakers, parlez-vous français, mon amis? Clairsentient would be the ability of clear sensing, clairvoyant, clear seeing, clairaudient, clear hearing. And I think that I've explained that well. But yeah, I like to think I work through the vast majority of the clairs. Clairvoyant is my sort of go-to clair when I'm working, but I say the vast majority in my mind's eye. Thanks, Reece. Great question. Alison Barton says, so is building the power the same as sitting in the power? Yes and no. So if the power is a swimming pool, sitting in the swimming pool is very different to building the swimming pool. If you're sitting in the swimming pool, you're going to get wet. You're going to feel the benefits of the swimming pool, and you can dip out of it again. Building the swimming pool for me is an extent of, okay, well, you're going to have to put some foundations in. You're going to understand more about this, and you're going to start to develop it. You could say that building the swimming pool or building the power is topping up the swimming pool. So you've got your swimming pool and it's got some water in it. Now I need to build it. I need to top it up. I need to invest into it. So I need to build the power up, or I need to work on my attunement. I need to fine tune things. I was talking with a medium last night, Ricky Whitmore, and we were talking about the fact that, you know, as a medium, I always said I'm not a DJ, I can't take requests. Perhaps it's because my level of attunement is on Radio 1, but the communicator you really want to talk to is communicating on Radio 2. And it's about getting that frequency. It's about vibrations. It's about different dimensions, and it's about understanding that. So for me, building the power is a combination of investing into you, learning and building up your attunement, and then building up the power the same way you develop your attunement. Yeah, great question, Alison. Hopefully I've given you a satisfactory answer. What do they look like for you, says Amie White? Very differently. So last year, almost all of my mediumship has been online. Right now, I'm sat in my office at home. I'm looking at a computer screen, and all I can see on the computer screen is your comment in the top right window, a little bit of video from me. So often you'll see with my mediumship, there is a moment of me closing my eyes, which I've always found helps me to focus initially with the first communicator. And I have created a number of things within the mirror in the mind, which are plain English for me. I've spoken on this show before about my love of Hollywood and films, and one of my favorite programs growing up was Quantum Leap. And in Quantum Leap, Dr. Sam Becker used to step into the Quantum Leap accelerator and vanish. And then there was this waiting room, and the waiting room is the consciousness of the person that he would temporarily inherit. Now, that waiting room for me is kind of what I see in my mind's eye. And my guide there, my mediumship guides are there, and they act for me as like a bouncer between this world and the next world. Now, all of that are things that I have created to simplify things in my own mind's eye. And as I do that, usually my principal mediumship guide, a guy called Bob, starts to introduce the communicators to me. I close my eyes, I start to see them, and I start to get sometimes descriptions of them. Sometimes I hear names. Often it's very psychic imagery. It's all the different pictures. For example, I'd see a picture of my mum. I know this woman was a mum. Then I see my boys, so I know that they've also got perhaps children. Perhaps I'll see then the cause of death, and I start to see dates on calendars. When I see spirit, when I'm clairsensing, when I'm seeing spirit with my eyes, often they appear exactly like human beings do. In fact, in the same way that I could double take. As a young man in church, I can remember walking into the church after we'd locked the doors and cleared up for the night, seeing the church absolutely packed, and it was as if people were sat there. And then as I walked back in, it had all gone again. Other times, spirit appears slightly different, almost like they're out of shape or out of phase. And for me, it's about them then saying that they are a spiritual being, and they are presenting themselves in that way because, of course, they have no physical body. They have no need for a physical body, but they are presenting themselves in a way very similar to the way they looked while they were alive. And I start to see that. So hopefully that answers your question, Amie. I've always loved that show, Ghost Whisperer, and I've always, I think it was Melinda. I've forgotten what her name is now, but how Melinda would see the different sort of spirits, and they would sort of click in and out. I've always quite fancied that, although I think it would be quite intimidating, certainly if it was anything like the Hollywood show. But yeah, they look exactly like you and I do when I'm able to see them with my eyes. But most of the time, they start to present themselves in the mind's eye, and as I said, like a sketch. So first relationship, oh yeah, it's a person, it's someone's dad's dad. They passed with a heart-related condition. I'm making all this up, by the way. I mean, not that I make up mediumship, but I'm not actually giving you a message. And as that comes in, someone might say, well, can you tell me what colour their hair was? So I go back to that mirror and I'm like, come on, show me the colour of your hair. Then I see the colour. What was their hair like? Oh, now I can see a perm. And it's almost like a little sketch, like the old etcher sketches with the knobs. It's like the picture, almost like a police officer doing a sketch or an e-fit. The picture starts to develop in my mind like that. And then, yeah, when I've been really lucky, I've got to see glimpses of spirit. Lovely question, Amie. Thank you. Hopefully that answers that for you. Stacey was sharing that she sees them in photographic images and poses. Yeah, that's quite nice. And I think that I've often get people, if they like a particular photograph of them, that they're able to show me that photograph in their head, or certainly describe it. I've had evidence from people that really like the photo used on, say, their order of service at their celebration of life or funeral, and it's almost like they send it to me like a text message in my head, and I start to see the image coming. So that's really cool, Stace. Thanks for sharing that. Joanne Lewis says, is it normal to be talking to a random person and see the illuminated shapes on the floor and wall? Is this something that happens to others that we are there? So no doubt people are starting to answer that question, Joanne Lewis, within the chat anyway. I think it can be perfectly normal. If you are talking to a random person and see illuminated shapes on the floor and wall, it's a sort of case of, unless there's something physically wrong with the way your eyes are interpreting the message, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not medically qualified, but a member of my family had a tumor in his brain that was causing him to see all sorts of things. So there was a physical reason happening within his brain for seeing that. But then there are lots of psychic and imagery behind all the different shapes and symbols. So illuminated shapes on the floor and wall, if that's something for you, which is coming in for your attunement, it's about understanding the code. What do the illuminated shapes on the floor and wall mean? So I'm sure that something similar is happening to others. But I think that when you talk about random people, you mean you're talking to a stranger and you suddenly see it, or you're talking like you just happen to be talking to a friend. When it's with total strangers and people you don't know, perhaps that's an element of their aura, and you're seeing their aura as an illuminated shape, or perhaps you're seeing their intention. In the same way, if two very close people have a huge argument in a small room, and you can feel that energy, can't you? You can feel that tension when you walk into that room. In the same way, if people have just been, romantically kissing or snogging, usually teenagers, you walk in and that, oh, it feels awkward. You can feel that, that unconditional lust or love. And those types of physical things might be showing within your mind's eye as illuminated shapes. So yeah, sounds like something to experiment with, work with your guide team, see what the code means. Thanks for asking, Joanne. Lovely question. Questions. Can animals see spirit like we do? Tony writes, yeah, great question. I absolutely believe they can. As a medium, I've had evidence from animals' life after their lives too. I think that their personality and consciousness have an afterlife too. And I think that animals on Earth, experiencing things in the third dimension term in exactly the same way we do, it's the same for them. And again, no one's kind of been around to them. They've come from that place called heaven, just like children. And no one said to them, well, that person you see, it doesn't actually exist because I can't see them. So sometimes animals stay quite spiritually aware much longer. Obviously, different animals have different levels of intelligence, and their consciousness is developed. But certainly things like animals, cats, and some of the really intelligent animals, like dolphins, gorillas, monkeys, think animals were sort of within that kingdom. I think they're very close to spirit, and they see and hear and feel things just like mediums. Yeah, lovely question, Tony. What do you think? What do you think, folks? Be interesting to see your thoughts too. Okay, we'll take our next question now. Diane Elizabeth Cooper, you have got spirit around you. They mean no harm to you. Yeah, absolutely. I assume you're answering one of the questions there, and I think that's very true. Yes, I believe spirit are around us. They mean us no harm. Often they want to help us if we want them to help us. So we'd have to invite spirit into our lives to have any real impact. Thank you, Diane Elizabeth. Julie Hall, have you had any famous people through? Often with my mediumship, I'm meeting people, and of course, the communicators I'm bringing through are the communicators they would have known. So a lot of it depends on the sitter. If my client knew someone that was famous, and that's the person that comes through, then yeah, it's absolutely possible. I've certainly not had any sort of random introductions of celebrities. I've had no one that's claimed to be Elvis that's just popped in to sort of check in on me and say hi and move his upper lip. Although it'd be quite lovely. And any celebrities watching from the spirit world, you're always welcome to come in and say hello. So for me, the communication has been invited. Spirits march to the beat of their own drum. They kind of decide when to come in. Obviously, if I had clients with celebrities, it'd be a breach of their confidentiality to say. But I can say without breaching anyone's confidence that I personally haven't, because I just haven't. But I certainly know that mediums have. And of course, you have to give that evidence. And of course, there's different levels of famous. I'm talking about Harry Edwards today, and his lovely book I was reading from earlier on. Harry Edwards for me is a famous person, and there's lots of people that knew Harry Edwards, and there are lots of fantastic mediums and clairvoyants that sort of had that celebrity status. We had on Spiritual Psychics TV a couple of weeks ago a wonderful interview by, I think it was by Veronica, wasn't it, Richard, of Gwen Akora, the wife of Derek Akora. Derek Akora, was a famous medium. He was one of the most well-known TV mediums. So of course, anyone that knew Gwen, if Gwen was to get a reading, she might have her husband come through. The trouble is when someone is a well-known sort of person or a character, it's about giving that extra evidence, isn't it? It's about giving the person something from that communicator, whether you absolutely know it's them. Because the more famous the person is, the easier it is potentially for me at a subconscious level or a medium, a subconscious level, to have my own consciousness start to sneak in and throw in some of the blanks. So let's say Elvis. I'm giving someone here, and I'm saying, I think I've got this bloke come through. It says he was a rock and roll star. I can see him building, sequin onesies, Oh, and he's telling me his name was. Oh, he's telling me his name was Elvis. And all of a sudden, I've got all my own sort of stereotypes of Elvis, and I can go, oh, and he's giving me some blue suede shoes. Do they mean anything to you? Now, of course, for the sitter, they could say, yeah, it does. But of course, because it's a famous bit of information, for me, it's useless. And I like this to be giving a private reading to a member of my friend, my immediate circle or family. If I give a private reading to, say, let's say my sister asked me for a private reading. I know so much about my sister's life that effectively everyone is famous to them. So I have to go above and beyond. And I say to my guides, you're going to have to work really, really hard for this. If I'm giving a private reading to one of my mates from rugby and the evidence is that you play rugby, I say, no, not good enough. You want to give 3 or 4 bits of evidence that person understands that there's no way I could guess or assume. So yeah, Julie, I've never had any famous people per se come through, but there are lots of people, particularly within the spiritualism movement, that I think are quite famous, and I've had people claiming to be them, and the people receiving the message from me have confirmed the evidence that they have had from those people. Hopefully that answers your question, Julie. Good question. Okay, Benny says, as you've been talking whilst I was cooking, I frequently kept on hearing what you were going to say before you said it. I'm not a medium, so what was that? It used to happen with someone else. Benny, perhaps it's that you and I are on the same page. And, we are within our minds, we are just quite well alike, we're quite well attuned. Perhaps it's that you, as you're listening into this show, your subconscious or your higher self is picking up on what I'm about to say. I mean, there's about a 10-second delay on Facebook and YouTube. Perhaps your mind's eye has deleted that 10-second delay, and you've found out a better way to buff the broadband. But I joke that we just could be well attuned. My wife and I, my sister and I, we often finish in each other's sentences. When I've been with people at the church and we've been using tools like the Ouija board, you can sort of hear in your mind's eye what's about to be said before it is said. All of that for me is an element of attunement. But good question, and great, Benny. Perhaps I say we're just marching to the beat of the same drum, or on the same page. Natalie says, I was with my dog alone once, and she suddenly spun around to the arch leading to the kitchen and looked up and down as if someone was there, then followed whatever it was to the front door and then followed it up the stairs. So I'm sure she saw a spirit. Yeah, lovely. As she was following something very, yeah, absolutely. And spirits don't have the same physical restrictions as us. And I remember my cousin's house used to sort of see, feel, and hear spirit walking between the walls, and the dog and I were definitely attuned to exactly that same energy. My sister's little dog Susie, I think, was quite psychic, and she sadly suffered a couple of strokes before she eventually died. And I think she was almost constantly aware of things, and she stayed with me a couple of times, little Susie dog. And I used to say that Susie was on patrol, and I'd hear her in my corridor, and she'd be up and down. And you could hear her little claws, tap tap tap. And I think that she was very aware of different spirit that were coming in and out of the house to sort of to say hello and sort of keep an eye on us. So yeah. Great bit of evidence, Natalie. Thank you for sharing that. Brilliant. I think that I've answered all of your questions this evening, and so we're actually coming towards the end of the show anyway. You ordinarily finish in the next 4 or 5 minutes. It gives us an opportunity to say thank you. Thank you to the wonderful producer, Richard James. Thank you to all of you at home that have tuned in from all around the UK, I think, tonight, and have engaged with us on both YouTube and Facebook. Thank you to those of you that have shared. Do remember to subscribe to the channel, find my own page at Ash Robinson Medium, like that too. Follow us on social media, and why not continue some of the chat on the SPTV fan page on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. So there's a poll on the next couple of subjects that should appear in this show. And I also wanted the opportunity to tell you about a couple of other things that are happening. one of the things you can do is you can visit the Spiritual Psychics TV website. The website has a host of information on there about SPTV presenters, different events going on. There's an incredible events section now as the world starts to reopen. There's lots of face-to-face and pay-for events happening all around the country. You can see those events. If you're looking for online events in particular, you can find them too. You can read some of the profiles of SPTV presenters and different mediums that have been on the show. And of course, we spoke a lot today about finding your own spiritualist church or centre, identifying perhaps a spiritual circle. So you've got opportunities on the SPTV website to look out for online classes, as well as this wonderful new directory. And there's an opportunity for those of us that are working as mediums and come from centres to make sure you and your centre and your church are on that directory. But there's a brilliant directory there. You can effectively go on and say what you're looking for and where you're looking for it, and the directory will start to point you towards that part of the world. So have a look at the Spiritual Psychics TV website. Have a look out for the new directory, a fantastic tool and a great opportunity to meet people. You can also meet some of the SPTV mediums for private readings. You can details on there about how to book them for private readings. And if you are a VIP of SPTV, it's a lot of letters, isn't it? If you're a very important patron of Spiritual Psychics TV, you can also get a discount with almost all of the mediums that work on Spiritual Psychics TV. I think it's £5, isn't it, Richard? £5 discount for VIPs. And actually, you get your money back because it only costs you about £1, £1.50 every month to become a VIP. Not only do you get discounts for private readings, you get all of the VIP content, regular sort of Zoom chats and little teachers and little sound bites and tasters and refreshers. It's a great way of supporting the channel. SPTV has a desire to remain free as a channel to give you the information and access to mediumship and free readings. So you've got an opportunity to help invest back into SPTV too. Richard, I hope that was okay. I've covered off some of the admin. A couple of adverts to show with you. Oh, there's a VIP chat tonight from 9:30. So you've got plenty of time to become a VIP if you're not one, and carry on the chat. There's a wonderful community here at SPTV and a great opportunity for you to join. Over the weekend, there'll be other bits and pieces happening too. On Saturday nights on this channel, you'll find regular demonstrations of mediumship. And by tuning in and subscribing to SPTV, you're guaranteed that the person working as a medium has been sort of well sort of tested, verified, and kind of put on. So every Saturday night from 8 p.m. on Spiritual Psychics TV, you'll have a demonstration of mediumship. Do check that out. That's free readings on Facebook and YouTube every Saturday night from 8 p.m. Who's the medium this Saturday, Richard? I can't recall. It sounds like a very exotic name, but it will be advertised on Facebook and YouTube as we get a little bit closer to the time. So tomorrow night from 8 p.m, folks, a wonderful demonstration of mediumship. And do check out a divine service with my home church, Women and Spiritualist Church, Reverends Mum and Dad, Ray and Jackie Robinson, every Sunday morning from 11 a.m, live from Women and Spiritualist Church, cast across YouTube and Facebook on Spiritual Psychics TV, is our divine service. An opportunity for people to come together as a virtual congregation, and as the doors start to open, some actual congregation in Wimbledon too. You'll have free demonstration of mediumship, an uplifting address from the medium or someone else attached to the church, and some lovely, lovely little readings and addresses. And of course, chill out on the couch with the ladies on the couch. Free readings with the ladies. You've got a bit of gossip and a bit of chat and a bit of fun. That's Sunday on the sofa from, I think it's 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock Sunday on the sofa. Every Sunday afternoon from 2 p.m. live on Spiritual Psychics TV. Sunday night, another opportunity for the community to get together as part of the VIP night. And we've got fledglings this Sunday night. And that, folks, is it. It's a wrap. It's been wonderful chatting with you tonight. It's gone really, really quickly. You've kept me going. Thank you so much for all your wonderful questions, and thanks for checking us out. If you are watching this on replay, you can't engage with the live chat, but perhaps share this and add some comments, or comment on the SPTV fan page, or on my own page to say what you thought of the show. And for those of you who have enjoyed it, perhaps share this stream on your social medias, tag someone in and say what we were chatting about tonight. And if you saw something worth seeing, if you saw something that wasn't worth watching again, then let me know so I can do something about it. Make sure I bring you the right content at the right time. Otherwise, folks, it's 9:15. I want you to stay safe and enjoy yourselves. Go off and do those things that make you happy in pursuit of happiness. Do as many things that make you happy with the people that make you happy. God bless, folks. Good night.